In this video, we're going to talk about emergency communications, the options that we've chosen, and some other options as well. Stay tuned. I'm just going to cut right to the meat of this thing, and then I'll elaborate further on other things later in the video. But right off the bat, I would say that our first line of emergency communications is we upgraded intentionally to iPhone 14 because they have an SOS feature that for the first time SOS started using satellites for emergency messaging. You can't just text anybody on it. You can't just place any calls. When you need 911, your message and location will be sent to a special response center that's trained in satellite emergency help. Help will come. I've read many examples of how people have used this since it first came out, and it works well. Apple made this free for 2 years, no additional cost. They covered the planned cost. At the end of that time, they did announce covering that cost for another year. So year by year, we don't know what that could end up looking like once they pass that cost on to the consumer. Prior to the satellite version, the SOS feature on iPhones, to my understanding, was it allowed you to access towers that were only reserved for first responders and teams like that. So only in emergency situations were you allowed to hit those towers. But now with satellites, anywhere in the world that they have this service rolled out, then you can access away from cellular the satellite network to send emergency messaging. You can also send a one-time update to family members and others with your location. So if you were about to go on a hike in a dangerous place or off the grid or whatever, you could say, here's where I am. And that way they would have something to go by, but it won't update real time as you move. It's a one-time blast that you can send out over that satellite communication. The feature only activates if your phone does not see cellular signals or Wi-Fi signals at all. So once that is true, you'll see SOS appear on your phone, and then the screen will guide you on being outside and getting access to the satellites in the sky and show you with the phone screen how to orient your phone for best signal.
Another option we have is Starlink. Since you can place calls with Wi-Fi on the iPhone over Starlink just fine, then worst case, you set up the Starlink. If it's not already set up, use a Wi-Fi call on your cell phone and call or text anyone anywhere. So that's a little more work if it's not already set up. And it's not always with us if we were to be away from the motorhome and the site that we're at. So if we're in the car, it's the iPhone and SOS. If we were near the rig and everything and SOS were to fail us, Starlink would be a great way to reach out for help if cellular coverage is completely zero. Currently, SOS has no cost, as I mentioned. Someday Apple may charge for it. For now, it's no cost. It's one of those things you won't use very often, but if you need it, you'll be glad it's there. Starlink, we're already paying for. So these two options don't cost us a lot. Some people get a satellite phone, and that would cost a lot of money to have that thing activated and available. There's also an option by Garmin, which would also use satellites, but that would be another piece of hardware. That would be a subscription plan, and that's just not an attractive choice for us. So there are other emergency communication options out there. These are the two we chose just because they fit us overall really well, and they will work really well when we need them, I feel like. And there's no additional cost and no additional hardware to leverage these. And then for less than emergency situations, I like the fact that we have both Verizon and T-Mobile in our data router. This lets us do Wi-Fi calling even if our Verizon phones don't have coverage, as long as we have T-Mobile. So I like to call that call resilience. We have two upstream options on our cell phones by leveraging Wi-Fi calling. And there are certainly more and more options coming in the future. Not long ago, they did announce a partnership between T-Mobile and Starlink, looking to put Starlink satellite access directly into T-Mobile phones. And even much more recently, just a few days ago from recording this, they announced success with phone directly connecting with Starlink without needing the Starlink dish. It's just a direct connection via hardware that's built into the phone that can talk directly to the Starlink satellites. The Apple solution for SOS does not use Starlink. It uses a smaller satellite company. It works fine. They don't have near as many satellites, so longer term there will be more robust options. And then for emergency power, the ultimate, 18th line of defense is I have a USB type battery that can charge phones and whatnot through a USB port or wirelessly if you touch them together. And it has a solar panel on one side. So We just really needed one of those in general because it's handy to have portable power sometimes like that. But if we had no power in the rig and the generator didn't work and the batteries were depleted and say even the car battery was totally shot, this USB battery would be completely last ditch, the ability to pick up energy from the sun to charge a phone and leverage SOS. So that's a short and sweet conversation on emergency communications. Sometimes we're going to be away from civilization. We might be out beyond cellular range. And would be what we do if we had an emergency, got lost, ran out of fuel, whatever might happen that makes us need to call for emergency help. We have a couple things up our sleeve. If this is any value at all, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.